the most famous thing that happened in America in the last year was the Supreme Court case US v. Skirmety.
But I'd like to ask you, Glenna, could you give us an oversight of what has happened legally in America, especially in the last year, because I think that's when it's all happened, and what is yet to happen? Because it's as you said earlier, Mia, it's dizzying. There's so much, and I'm not keeping up with it, and I'm really interested.
There's gender touches like maybe a dozen different areas of law, depending on how you count it. So we could be here all day and I'd be happy to, but I'll give you the highlights. So the most famous thing that happened in America in the last year was the Supreme Court case US v. Skirmety. This is a case out of Tennessee. It could have come out of other states as well. We have, about half the country, a little bit more now, has barred the use of gender medicine for kids under 18. And then they were challenged by the ACLU and by global commercial law firms and other organizations, saying that this violated the constitutional rights of the kids, their parents. And they got their case in the Supreme Court through Tennessee's ban, and the Supreme Court ruled on it in June and said, no, this is not violating kids' rights. There's no, the Supreme Court said it doesn't implicate any trans rights because it doesn't discriminate by, like, quote unquote, gender identity or transgender status. You could debate whether that's true, but that's what they found, and the Supreme Court just shut it down and said, no, these bans can continue in force. There are, just to warn people, there are some small loopholes in the decision, which hopefully won't matter, but in general, the message has gone out that these states can ban pediatric gender medicine. There are still, so we've just seen these all upheld across the country. There this trickled down to the appeals courts and trial courts, where they're now issuing rulings, like closing up the litigation that was happening there. You are still going to see it stumbling ahead zombie-like in certain states where the ACLU or other groups sued under the state constitution. So kind of similar arguments, but under a different document, the state constitution. And so the states get to make their own decisions about how to interpret it. We might end up with a very bizarre outcome where Montana, of all places, finds that there is a constitutional right to inject teenage girls with steroids. Inviolable. And Montana being one of our most conservative states, but just because of the way the judiciary is stacked there, they will have a constitutional right, which not even the most liberal blue state has. That's a possible outcome. Though in general, we're looking good in terms of the state's right to regulate and ban pediatric gender medicine.